in the world of sports, congratulations to Novak Djokovic, who won the Australian Open to tie Rafael Nadal for most Grand Slam wins of all time. To me, a really significant accomplishment because Djokovic is back to number one overall. He would have been probably the favorite to win many of the tournaments last year, including the Aussie Open and the U.S. Open, if he had been able to actually compete in those. Instead, they shut him down. They would not allow him to play because of stupid COVID policies, which still exist. In particular, Novak Djokovic can't get into the United States, even now, because we require anyone flying into the country to have evidence that they've gotten the COVID shot, even though we know the COVID shot is essentially worthless. And Novak Djokovic could walk down to the southern border, enter into our country on the southern border, get a ride from Texas up to New York, and theoretically claim asylum and be able to play in the U.S. Open tennis tournament, which is a testament to how broken American policy is, particularly on immigration, but on COVID as well, that you can cross the southern border on foot with zero COVID test requirements, certainly no COVID shot requirements, but you can't fly into the country as a visitor. So you can illegally enter, stay for years without the COVID shot, but you can't enter for a short period of time if you are Novak Djokovic. This was a failure. I believe that in the years ahead, as more and more of the failures of the COVID shot become apparent, that Novak Djokovic is going to be considered actually a brave and courageous figure in sports, which is actually what I would say Kyrie Irving, Aaron Rodgers, Novak Djokovic, but particularly Djokovic and Kyrie Irving in particular, have lost a substantial amount of money for their willingness to stand against these stupid and, I believe, unconstitutional and absolutely indefensible COVID shot requirements. To me, bravery at a minimum, if we're contextualizing it within the world of sports, requires either the loss of freedom, which I think being able to work is a form of loss of freedom, or the loss of life, right? True bravery. And what's so funny to me is the mainstream sports media would tell you that it is extremely brave for Colin Kaepernick to have taken a knee, right? But the reality is Colin Kaepernick made far more money off taking a knee than he ever would as a backup quarterback in the NFL. And the reality is Kyrie Irving may well have lost tens of millions of dollars over his COVID shot determination. And certainly Novak Djokovic may have lost the opportunity to be considered the greatest tennis player of all time because we don't know exactly how all of that is going to shake out. Now, I think he has a good chance to win at the French Open and at Wimbledon. And if he gets to play in the U.S. Open, maybe as well. But he wasn't allowed to do that in the U.S. Open or the Australian Open last year, both of which he would have been favored to win. Now, they ended up having, I don't know how many of you saw on ESPN, John McEnroe said he should have been able to play, basically. This was ridiculous. And Chris Fowler said, well, he made a choice. Yeah, he made a personal health choice that did not allow him to come into the country of Australia. In fact, they banned him from entry, which is absurdly ridiculous. And if it actually made anybody safer, they wouldn't have allowed him in this year. And they're acknowledging essentially that that's a broken policy. But he took the slings and arrows of derision, and he ended up right. And I think there's an analogy here with Muhammad Ali, where at the time that Muhammad Ali refused to fight in the Vietnam War, it was very controversial to make that choice. In later years, it became, when Ali was vindicated, not a very controversial choice. I think that's going to end up happening with Novak Djokovic now that we know these shots don't work and are essentially worthless.